I'm here with Kenton Temple, and we're going to be talking about the new proposed library for Gatlinburg. Kenton, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And, you know, I get a question from a lot of people, and of course, we're all excited about a new library. But with the need of a new library and a need of a larger library with all of the internet availability and internet use today, what's your answer to that?
Amazingly, with the heavier use of the internet, the use of libraries in two areas has gone up. And one stays critically important. The critically important is literacy programs, reading programs, summer reading programs for young children, because you can't use the internet if you can't read.
Right.
So that's very important. Then, strangely, circulation of books has gone up. More people are reading. And here we have a lot of people that use the videos and they use the books on tape because they travel a long way from Gatlinburg to get places. And the third reason is for research. More people, high school students, community college students are using libraries for research, for web-based resources, but libraries have access to more that you can't get at home because they're databases, collections of information that you can't afford, but you can get through libraries. So while individual reference questions have gone down somewhat, because people do Google to get those answers. Incidentally, we Google to get answers when we're asked questions. So it's increased reading with books. People still like to have hard copies of books and magazines to read.
You know, you mentioned the reading programs, and I know you have those during the summer especially, and maybe throughout the rest of the year, but
yes.
This library really gets overcrowded, and a new facility would be wonderful for some of those programs just to be able to really meet the need.
We have too many things going on at the same time. And we can't do all of it in this building at the same time. We do have after-school kids that'll be coming in here any minute this afternoon that fill up. We also have town workers that use our computers to correspond with their homes in foreign countries. We have, at the same time in the evenings, on Tuesday evening, we have a book group that meets here, and we're on top of each other. We have people that want to do quiet reading, and they don't have any place to sit. The school children really use us during the science project times.
Right.
Then the reading programs that you mentioned, we don't have any space here for maybe 5 or 10 children.
Right.
But in the new facility, we'll have access to the meeting room at the community center, and we can have space for larger children's programs. At the same time, the noise from them, the singing or the hand puppets, won't bother older adults who may have come in to read the newspapers. So we can separate out our uses where we can't here.
You know, you mentioned the internet use by a lot of our workers. How many computers do you have now, and how is that regulated? Can they come in and spend so much time? How much time?
We have 5 public access computers now, and they have a really nifty timer system on them. Mm-hmm. They time out after 30 minutes, and we have to put them on there and put a password in, and then anybody can basically do email or change their airplane reservations or do research or play games for their 30 minutes, and it times out. If nobody is waiting, well, then they have access to 2 more 30-minute periods up to an hour and a half a day. Gotcha. If somebody's waiting, we keep a list and we put the next person on. Does that answer your question?
Sure did. Sure did. And one thing that I think is extremely interesting is all of the synergy out in the location with the new library. You've got the new Boys and Girls Club. You've got the high school, the community center. Just everything happening.
That's fabulously exciting. That's so neat. This downtown location is very hard for parking. The high school students don't come downtown to use this. At the new setting, we'll get all the kids from GP that come in to do research. I think the school buses go from Pi Phi to the community center in the afternoon, I think. Mm-hmm. So school kids can still come to use the library, but if what they need is a place to be after school, then they've got the Boys and Girls Club or they've got the community center. So it's so much better for all the children in town and adults to not have to fight with parking in downtown Gatlinburg.
And I know that the city has participated in funds, and that there is a group of concerned citizens that are interested in raising private funds, and there's a luau coming up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun party. Ripley's Aquarium is hosting a luau at their facility. They're providing the band, the food, limited drinks, and a children's party for $5. If you've already bought a ticket to the luau, you can bring your kids for the evening. It's going to be fun. All of the proceeds are going to the building program. We either have sponsors lined up, or Ripley's is taking care of the cost. So every penny, every ticket sold goes toward the building fund. And it's not an auction. It's we're going to have one door prize, and the one door prize was donated by Food City, and it's a cruise, a Carnival 7-day cruise, first class tickets for 2 people to anywhere that Carnival Cruise goes except Alaska.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
wow.
great.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, wow. I'd like to win that. Yeah.
So that is September 14th,
September 14th,
5:30.
5:30.
And how much are tickets?
Tickets are $75 each, and you
Okay.
have to have a ticket there with its ticket stub to be eligible for the door prize drawing.
Okay, very good. Well, it sounds like a lot of fun, and we talked a little bit earlier before we started filming about Pi Beta Phi and Gatlinburg Pittman, and with their huge success with the National Merit Scholars, and it all starts with the reading in the grade school.
It does. It starts before grade school. It starts with parents having books, reading books to their children, bringing them to a library. It's still cheaper to get books at the library than it is to go buy them,
And tapes.
And tapes to listen to, and that's where the literacy starts. That's where an emphasis on just being able to read. And again, you can't use the internet if you can't read.
And tell us about some other new functions with the new building, some other things that you may be able to do that you can't do here.
Oh, we're going to have a teen corner that is for teens only. Hopefully, we'll get some design influence from kids. We'll still be able to see it. It's all the whole building is going to be one large space where we can see small children, we can see teens, but each group will be far enough away so that there's a sense of privacy and quiet. We're going to have a coffee shop, and we're real excited about being able to do that. Let's see, the children's area, the whole building is going to be different. We're pioneering a concept for libraries that it will look rather like a bookstore, and there will be a lot of signs to help people find what they need, and lower shelves, and comfortable seating, and a lot more computers.
And Tom Trotter has had a lot to do with this.
Oh, he's done it. He's the architect, and he's done a beautiful job. We've got windows. We've got a skylight designed. We've got a fireplace designed into the combination Smoky Mountain Collection adult reading area, and cabinets so that we can further collect the natural and cultural history of Gatlinburg, which is what we do with the Smoky Mountain Collection.
So if people want to be a part of this, where can they get tickets?
They can get tickets here at the library, they can get tickets at the Chamber of Commerce, and they can get tickets from local banks.
Okay, all the local banks, Chamber, and here.
And here, yes.
So just mark that date aside, September 14th.
September 14th.
At the aquarium.
At the aquarium. Bring your moo-moo. I think there may be a prize for the best beachcomber and beachcomber S. But wear your Hawaiian shirt and come have fun.
Show up and have fun.
Yeah.
All right, Kenton, thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Mike, for coming and doing this.
Absolutely. I'm here with Ed Montgomery. Ed has been around Gatlinburg for quite a while, and he's seen a lot of changes take place, and we're going to be talking about the early development of Gatlinburg, and also his days when he played basketball at UT. Ed, thanks for being with us.
You're welcome.
Tell me, when did you come to Gatlinburg?
I came here in 1967.
And what was it like then? Was it starting to develop, or?
Well, that was about 5 years after the ski resort had been built. And of course, my interest in coming here was was the area around the ski resort up there, which is now known as Chalet Village. And Mount Harrison Development Corporation was a company that started Chalet Village, and I came here as their general manager and vice president of the corporation in '67. A good friend of mine up in Kingsport by the name of C.P. Bud Edwards was the fellow who owned everything in Mount Harrison Development Company, and he bought the property from LeConte Properties, which was a company here in town that bought. You see, up around the ski resort used to be old timberland. They used it to cut timber off of. And when the ski resort was built, the city bought that property and gave it to the ski corporation to think. And they had restrictions back then that they could have no lodging on the ski resort property because the people downtown didn't want the competition.
Sure.
And there was a little bit of that, I don't know what you call it, friction, I guess you would say, in one sense, but not jealousy either, but not wanting too much to be developed up there, taken away from downtown.
Of course.
But that didn't last very long, thank goodness, and we made a lot of friends with people downtown. And Mount Harrison Development Corporation developed a section on the north side of Ski Mountain Road going up, which is a subdivision known as Alpendorf. And then Bud Edwards and the other people involved also had another company called Gatlinburg Development Corporation, which developed the south side of thing, which is called the Tyrolia subdivision. And those were completed, I guess you'd say, in about 1970. Pretty much 1970 to 72 in that area.
Was Aetna Insurance Company involved at all? I've heard that in the past.
Kaiser Aetna was one of the companies. That was after we had sold out.
Okay.
We sold out to a company from Cincinnati called Rapoka, which means Red Ash Pocahontas Coal Company. And the reason for that was because Mount Harrison Development Corporation and Gatlinburg Development Company had relationships with the Fifth Third Bank in Cincinnati as far as financing was concerned and things of that nature. And so when they decided to sell out, Bud Edwards, who was a personal friend of mine who I was in business with, I was in business with Bennett Edwards Insurance up in the Johnson City area before I came down here.
Okay.
They had a company called Bennett and Edwards in Kingsport, which was the second largest insurance agency in the state of Tennessee. And about every 3 years, it was the largest one because that's when Tennessee Eastman Corporation's policies came due. 3 years and made them larger than Crump in Memphis, which I'm sure you may have heard. You wouldn't, but Tennessee people know who Crump Insurance Agency is there. Well, Bud had bought a much larger tract of land over in North Carolina right before I came down here to develop, which near Burnsville, North Carolina. It's between Irwin, Tennessee, and Asheville, just off of the highway there. And it now has, they developed a golf course and a ski resort over there. It was called Wolf Laurel. And Bud didn't have the time to spend down here, and that's when he asked me if we could sell our agency up there and for me to come down and more or less take this over and be the general manager down here. And that's how I got to Gatlinburg.
When did Bill Stevens come here?
Well, Bill came with when Rapoka bought the company out. It's kind of an interesting story because Jay Thompson, who owned Rapoka, had coal mines up in Wise, Virginia, in that area up there. And he was down in Wise at the hotel where he would stay when he'd go down to the coal mine and met Bill Stevens in the lobby. And they got to talking, and of course Bill was from Bristol. Bill was a radio announcer for a long time. Then Bill came to Johnson City, and that's where I first met Bill. He came over and ran a bowling alley for the man who originally started the Bristol Raceway.
Really?
Yeah, and that's how I knew Bill and his family there. And Bill was talking to Jay in Wise, Virginia, and they got chatting around. For some reason, Jay said, "Well, he said he knew me." He said, "Well, how would you like to come down and work with us down in Gatlinburg. And Bill says, well, let me think about it or something. So anyway, Bill came down and we got together, and then he and I were there together for a couple of years. And by the way, we also hired his wife, Barbara Stevens, to be our secretary. Before Barbara ever saying, she was secretary for Earl Henry, an attorney here, and Earl and Randy Sykes, another attorney, did all of our paperwork as far as deeds were concerned and contracts and stuff like that. And so Barbara came to work up there that before she ever got her license to start selling.
No kidding.
Right. Wow. And of course, you know how successful she's been, how successful Bill was, and
right.
I'm proud of both of them, and think they're just wonderful people.
So you were up in Chalet Village basically when they were cutting in the roads for the new whole new project and the whole development.
Oh yes, we when I first came here, like we were a little bit behind in some of our payments to some of the big contractors and stuff like that, and I remember one of the things that I did I felt real proud of, the fact that we accomplished this. But when I first got here, I went down to the First National Bank and introduced myself to Mr. Mills, who was the president of First National Bank at the time. And told him who I was and what I was here for, and that we would get everything taken care of in a certain period of time. I went down to Charlie Blaylock down at Blaylock's, because they were the ones that were doing most of our road work at the time, and introduced myself to them and told them the same thing. And thank goodness that we were successful enough in sales from July to the end of the year that we cleared off all the books.
Wow.
Got everybody caught up on things we owed, and we were moving around real good. I had two good salesmen with me at the time, one of them by the name of Don Ledford, and another one by the name of Frank Rust, and myself, so there's three of us selling. And then, of course, when Bill came with us with Rapoka, it was a different company, but we were doing the same thing. And really, we had a lot of fun and a lot of pride and everything else in developing the property and selling it like we did.
And what were some of the lots going for then, and what are they going for now? You've been in real estate for a long time around here, and I just think that's interesting how we've seen such appreciation here.
Well, it certainly has been, but the appreciation has really just been in the last few years, when I say a
Big
radical
jump.
like it has been. For example, one of the things that I really liked was that our our increase in appreciation was only around about 3 to 5% a year. It was just pretty steady when I first came here. In the first 10 years I was here, and it's only been in the last several years, last 5 years, that we've gotten these 13 to 15% increased jumps on the same thing. If you can see what I'm saying, and our lots that we sold up there would start out at around $2,000 for one with out of view and not as good a building site, to as high as very highest around $10,000. Well, that $10,000 lot today would be $100 and up,
right?
If it were on the market for today. In fact, my daughter was telling me about a lot that she was trying to resell up there the other day for $75,000. And I had to go up and look at it because I couldn't believe it. Had a lot up there for $75,000, but we did.
But you've really seen this area change too. What do you think are some of the more positive changes that you've seen in Gatlinburg?
Well, I think Gatlinburg, of course, the biggest thing, this is very current, of course, the biggest thing that I think is, to me, I was amazed because I hadn't been downtown in a week or two for some reason. And when I went down about a week ago on Sunday evening to eat, I noticed the power lines, there's still a few there, but the town looks even bigger to me now.
It does.
It's going to be so great to get those lines, the rest of them down, because I think it makes Gatlinburg look like a different place.
I agree.
Yeah, I was, of course, let me mention that I want to congratulate Jim Girding for the work and the efforts that he put behind doing this project, and all the other people that have helped too.
Right. Jim never gave up.
That's right, and he's contributed and contributed money and contributed effort, and I really appreciate that.
Well, I agree. It does look wonderful, and something we can all be proud of.
This county has just gone crazy. I'll tell you something might be interesting to you, Mike, is the fact that when we were developing Chalet Village up there, the first things that we sold were A-frames. You know, roof lines and everything else.
Right.
And it was a real hot item for a while. And it's funny how trends change for things like that. Then after the A-frames got so popular, some of our builders that were up there, and we had several different builders building up in Chalet Village, they call what is a mansard. And a mansard is more like a barn type of roof, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It became real popular. Then a contemporary type of chalet became so popular. Well, today it's log cabins. You can't drive on any road in this county out here without seeing log cabins going up.
Right.
And they're even being built in Chalet Village now, more so than they were before. But people, I don't know how long the log cabin craze will last, but it's here.
It's here. It's pretty strong. You know, Ed, you mentioned that there were several builders. What, would people just buy a lot and then they had a choice from who was available to build?
Yes. We had quite a few different builders we could recommend to them, and they could have their own builder. The only restrictions we had were square footage, and the plans were supposed to be approved by the development company.
Now, Hubert Bebb, he had quite an impact too on the building in Gatlinburg. What, in the 70s possibly, if I remember right, or close to that?
And earlier. Mm-hmm.
He was a community tectonic, started it, and he brought in a designer home. You see a lot of those in the area.
Right. And you see a lot of the buildings like the City Hall we have here now, and that type of thing. And of course, he was real well known for that type of structure. We didn't have many of his houses in our development, but there were homes here for local people built that Mr. Bebb designed.
Who were some of the other local developers that had big impact on the growth of Gatlinburg, like out in your area here?
Well, back in those days,
With the Whaleys, were they doing a lot of development?
Dick Whaley was probably the biggest one. Dick owned all this property where I live here at LeConte Towers now, and the Hidden Hills was his development, and it was more permanent. But there are other ones too, you know, like O&B Hills, Montgomery Woods, different ones like that have been more. Really, Chalet Village was probably the first second home or vacation type home that development that was started here in Gatlinburg.
And that was the big boom in nightly rental, that they had a choice between staying in the motels downtown and having a chalet.
That came
or an
about.
A-frame.
Yes, that came about. That wasn't at the very beginning. That really wasn't a big play, because those A-frames. You've seen the A-frames up Ski Mountain Road.
Right.
Well, back in the '60s, they were building those and selling them completely furnished for $17,500, which won't even make a payment on a lot today, probably. But so we started the first rental program up there, and had very much success with it. But that wasn't a big thing over the past years. It has been, because we have people that have come in here and it started out with one chalet, and I have had people end up with 5 different investment properties just because of the rental program. And there's a lot of them going now, and there's going to continue to be a lot.
Right.
But what's amazing me, the fact that how many condominiums there are in the county on the planning board today. I knew the total number, but it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
From what I've been told.
Everywhere you turn and look, looks like a new condo going up somewhere. What else would you like to see for the future of this area, for Gatlinburg and the county?
Well, I think that I don't understand why when the people vote for something and the city commissioners county commissioners, not city commissioners, the county commissioners seem to ignore not having a zoning. I think zoning would have been a tremendous help if it had started even a lot earlier than it is now. What worries me and bothers me more than anything, I want to see progress. I want to see people build more condominiums and more people coming into the area. And by the way, isn't it great that the people are paying the prices they're paying down at Norton Creek now for the properties in the two things? It's
unreal.
Those kind of people into Gatlinburg is going to be a big help to all the community.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't think Gatlinburg will ever suffer, because it's the key to coming into the park, and it still has its individuality of being able to walk up and down the street and we still have some real nice shops, and I hope we get even more.
I agree.
And,
It's a unique situation.
I was reading something in the city sponsoring some type of crafts or entertainment type
this summer.
sidewalk. I think that would be. I think
Yeah.
that sounds like it would be great.
We'll find out real soon because it's going to start up here in just a real short time. But it's going to be Tales and Tunes entertainment on the street, and try to get more people in the county to come up here in the evening. I think it'll be successful.
I hope so.
Now, Ed, I know you played basketball at UT. Tell me about that. I bet that
Well,
was
that
exciting.
was before you were born. I was very fortunate to be able to go to the University of Tennessee on a basketball scholarship
Where'd you play high school ball?
at Knoxville High School, which is no longer there. But I grew up in Knoxville and started out the YMCA playing midget basketball, and moved on to Knoxville High School and played 3 years there, and then moved on to a scholarship at UT. And I was fortunate to make the first team sophomore year.
Wow.
And played 3 years in a row for UT. And we had a real good basketball team in those days, proud to say, because my first sophomore year we were 19-5
Wow.
record, and in my junior year we were 20-4. They were talking about teams not being a 20-game winner, but we were. And unfortunately, but fortunately in another way, my senior year we didn't have as good a record. We lost about 9 games, and but people remembered us because we'd done 2 things. We won a corn bowl tournament, which was a holiday tournament at Christmas time that we weren't favored to do, and we beat the University of Kentucky for the first time that they'd been beaten in the Southeastern Conference for 36 games.
Wow.
And so people remember us for that too. And I played with some boys. I had Paul Walther, and his name doesn't ring a bell with you, but it might with some of the people that see us if they're still around.
Sure.
And he was an All-American, and I had a roommate and running mate, Hugh Jones, who was the brother of an athlete named Wawa Jones at the University of Kentucky, and I'm real proud of what we did during those days.
Did you get to know any of those guys in the Kentucky team?
Knew all of them. The reason they were so good was right after the war, they actually had 2 All-Americans sitting on their bench that had transferred to Kentucky right after the war, which you could do and not lose any playing time. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
And they had two All-Americans sitting on their bench, and they were called the Fabulous Five. And I tell you how good they were. That they had a franchise when these boys graduated. They had a franchise open up in Indianapolis, and they moved all 5 of them to Indianapolis and gave them I think something like 20% of the team. That's how good they were. And my teammate Paul Walters even played with them for a year or 2, and then he moved on to Philadelphia and some other school.
Well, Ed, you've seen quite a bit of changes in Gatlinburg, and what do you think has been probably the reason people keep coming back here year after year? We have so many repeat customers.
Well, I think it's several things. I still give the park the #1 credit.
Yeah.
The people come here because of the Smoky Mountains National Park. I also feel like that people come here because of the people here in Gatlinburg, and the whole county and the East Tennessee area, because I haven't lived too many other places, but I've lived a few, and I've traveled quite a few other places, but it's just hard to beat these good East Tennessee people. And kind of give you an example. When we were buying property for Rapoka, when Rapoka was buying Chalet, what's now known as Chalet Village North, and Dick Whaley was one of the owners. He and a couple of people from Knoxville owned all that property. And so I called up there and told them, when they agreed to buy it, called up and told them, I said, send us a $50,000 check down here for a down payment on this property. And they said, well, Ed says, don't you think we ought to get something in writing? And I said, no. I said, this is Dick Whaley. I said, his word is his bond.
Well, that's strong. That's good.
But that's typical of the type of people we were dealing with back in those days. I tell you something that used to be amazing too, Mike. I don't know if this way when you first came here or not, but when I first came here, I did a lot of selling, and unfortunately, you can't do it today. But the merchants used to leave a lot of their wares out on the sidewalk overnight, not even put them in, because nobody was stealing, and the crime element was not anywhere near what it is today. And that's one of the few things I hope we can keep control of. Unfortunately, it seems like the more people come in, the more you're going to have. But our policemen and people are doing a good job, and I hope it continues to do.
Well, they are, and that's one of the biggest pluses we have is being a safe walking community, which I don't think there's many of those
That's right.
in our whole area. Now, how are you related to our sheriff, to Bruce. And our past police chief, Harry?
We're about fourth cousins. We, my daddy left Sevier County when he was 17 years old, and I didn't know I had as many cousins and everything as I have up here until a few years ago when they started having Montgomery reunions, and all my family, I take them, and we've been going to those each year. And Richard Montgomery down in Seymour is also a cousin. And
state representative.
Yes, state representative, and then Harry and thing. Of course, we've known Harry and Bruce a long time since we first met here. Kind of interesting, my son Robert Montgomery.
Sure.
Well, when we first came here, Robert was 11 years old, if I remember correctly, and he was working at the Texaco station downtown there for what's his name? Anyway, he was working for so much an hour, and Bruce had a little station across the street, and he got to know Robert for a little bit, and he more than doubled Robert's things because he was getting like 10 cents an hour, and he moved to 25 cents an hour at the time. And that was one of Robert's first jobs, was working for Bruce down at his service station.
Well, Robert's really done well, and he's been a great partner of mine for years.
Yes.
You played a lot of golf.
I really enjoyed golf. It's been a real good pastime as well. I feel like I made a lot of friends on the golf course.
And the Gatlinburg Golf Course is one of the most beautiful in the country, I think.
It's a nice golf course, really is. It's a little hilly, but it's nice.
Now, when that was developed, Pigeon Forge was pretty much just one road through it. It hadn't really started developing yet.
Yeah, I think they opened it in '55, and that was even before my time. But I played golf there a couple of times before I came here.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for sharing with us some of the memories.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.